So, even before this whole thing started with QAnon, my favorite character in all of Star Trek was always Q, played by John Delancey. Um, I like that he was always obviously just trying to help the Enterprise. He was essentially their guide through the universe, and he plays with them in a very puckish fashion. He always reminds me of Puck, where he can just flick the Enterprise at the Borg at his will. He just goes like, "Here you go. Now you're 40,000 light years this way. What are you gonna do?" um, and I don't know if QAnon deliberately chose um, Q based on the Star Trek character, but it would make a lot of sense. And that's just reading from the Wikipedia description because it's kind of hard for me to describe what Q is. Like, I would have said it's like a being as close as you can get to God that's split up in a prism of different people. Or, like, it's like one being or one thought form that's split up into multiple agency. On Wikipedia, it describes Q the man and Q the race as an extra dimensional being of unknown origin who possesses immeasurable power over normal human notions of time, space, and the law of physics, and reality itself, being capable of violating or altering them in unpredictable ways with a casual thought or hand gesture. Despite his vast knowledge and experience spanning untold eons, and much to the exasperation of the objects of his obsession, he is not above practical jokes for his own personal amusement, for a Machiavellian and manipulative purpose, or to prove a point. He is said to be nigh omnipotent and is continually evasive regarding his true motivations. That's pretty on the nose, right? Again, I don't want to assume anything, and I'm not involved with Q in any way. I wear my Q Link pendant, and ever since I started wearing it, I do feel much more comforted, grounded, um, divinely inspired, and those could all be psychosomatic. I don't know, and I uh, don't want to do an ad for the Q Link because they're pretty expensive, and if you can't afford one, I don't want you to feel like you're missing out on something. But when I first heard that QAnon was, using Q, I immediately went to Next Generation, John Delancey, and this concept of basically, and I don't want to say God, but on that tier where he can manipulate, like they say, time, space, laws of physics, reality itself at their whim, like a snap of a finger. So, and it's ultimately important that Q, as far as I was concerned, was always testing the Enterprise and testing humanity. Like, if the Enterprise is the best example of sterling humanity that the Federation can send out into the universe, then Q's like, oh yeah, well, let's see. Let's see how you handle something like the Borg. And so he will flick the Enterprise 40,000 light years off course, and they'll just run into the Borg. And he's like, well, now what are you going to do? You know what I mean? And in the last episode of Next Gen, spoilers, sorry, he looks Picard right in the eye and he's like, I was just trying to help you, dumbass. You know what I mean? He's like, in that battle you had with the Borg, you fired a tachyon beam, and the tachyon beam wrapped around the sun and blew up the Earth. Like, nice job, dumb fuck. This is why we can't let humans out in the universe to play. Because you have a lot of growing up to do. And so if QAnon is trying to evoke Q, that's perfect. And if not, I like to think that they are.